This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cardano, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. And the birthday boy for today, November the 13th, is an NFL quarterback who was a journeyman, if you will. He is a number one overall pick at quarterback. He was great for the University of Miami in his college days. He would be playing for many teams. He played for many teams. He played for Tampa, Cleveland, / Baltimore, once they moved to Baltimore. The Jets, the Cowboys, Jets again, then New England and Carolina. So anyway, it's his longevity, 21 seasons for 7 different teams. Unfortunately, he holds the record for most losses by a starting quarterback, 123. His regular season winning percentage is the lowest of any quarterback with 70 wins at 42%. He's only played in 5 postseason games in his career, 2-3. He's known more for his turnovers more than his powerful work. He is Vinny Testaverde. He'll be 59 years old today. He was born in Brooklyn and grew up as a fan of the Jets. So anyway, he would attend the University of Miami, playing from 82 to 86, being Miami's star quarterback after Brady Kosar left for the NFL. He backed up Brady Kosar for 2 years and was the starter in the 85 and 86 season. As a senior, he won the Heisman. He threw 48 career touchdown passes, which was the Hurricanes' record at the time. And, of course, he was the starting quarterback in that famous 1987 Fiesta Bowl that saw Miami and Penn State, numbers 1 and 2, battle for the national championship. A clean 1-2 matchup. And the good news for Miami and Penn State was that they were not committed to bowl tie-ins, as was the word of the day in the 1980s. Usually, if you're a Big Ten champ or a Pac-10 champ, you would go to the Rose Bowl no matter what your ranking is. So anyway, yeah, and Penn State was not tied to the Big Ten until 1993, you must know. Unfortunately, Testaverde threw 5 interceptions, the last one to Papadopoulos, and Penn State won the national title 14 times. However, the University of Miami had a quarterback dynasty. They had Jim Kelly, Brady Kosar, Steve Walsh, Gino Toretta, Craig Erickson, and Ken Dorsey also be good quarterbacks. In 2013, he was inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame. So, it was time for the 1987 NFL Draft, and Tampa had the first pick because they were a crappy 2-14. Tampa didn't do well with quarterbacks and all that. They let Steve Young head to San Francisco in a trade. So, they decided to pick Vinny Testaverde up. They figured, well, quarterback leads your team. Usually does. Unfortunately, though, in his second season, he picked up 35 interceptions, which was terrible. The second most in a single season in NFL history at that point. Testaverde would actually have some problems because he had color blindness. The worst part was that the radio station in Tampa rented a billboard that had Testaverde standing in front of a blue background, and the billboard read, "Vinny thinks this is orange." Unfortunately, there were a lot of problems and all that. Gene Upshaw, who was the president of the NFLPA, Players Association, actually commented during a commercial break that Testaverde was so dumb that he could drag the electric cord through his swimming pool while trimming the hedges, and claimed himself to be a better quarterback. Well, Upshaw said he was a better quarterback than Testaverde, and Upshaw was an offensive guard. Testaverde, unfortunately, would throw less interceptions, but the fans didn't really like him at all, and Tampa struggled. As part of the first major free agency class, with the NFL getting free agency, he signed with Cleveland in 93, which was huge. He would be backing up Brady Kosar just like he did in college. But then, shockingly, Cleveland decided to cut Kosar, one of Bill Belichick's worst moves ever, to get rid of their star quarterback, who was a Cleveland icon. Testaverde would help Cleveland get to the playoffs the next season. The joke was on Cleveland, as Kosar signed on to be the backup for the Cowboys, and they won the 94 title. So anyway, they did beat New England before losing to Pittsburgh in the playoffs. He would still be with the Browns once they moved to Baltimore to become the Ravens. He actually scored the first touchdown in Ravens history on a run. He did pretty good that 96 season. He actually threw for 4,000 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, and only 19 interceptions. Only because, of what happened. Testaverde would make the Pro Bowl. So, man, maybe he picked it up and all that. It was just shocking. Testaverde could scramble. So he would sign a contract with Baltimore ahead of the 97 season. And he had a loyalty. Unfortunately, though, Testaverde was not as good throwing touchdown passes. He only threw 18 in the 97 season. And after being injured, Eric Sire would come in to be the backup, and he was popular with the fans. Baltimore got Jim Harbaugh from the Colts in a trade. Unfortunately, that meant Testaverde's time was be done and all that. Of course, Testaverde was pissed off at how his release was conducted. Who would be happy with that? But, fortunately, though, as he was a Jets fan, the Jets needed a new quarterback. And guess what? The Jets said, hey, let's take him. And they did it for the 98 season. And he floundered. 29 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Only. That is like, holy crow, this guy's getting better with age. He's like wine. Testaverde would be in a controversy near the end of the season in a game against Seattle. The Jets were down 31-26 with 20 seconds left. Testaverde wanted to get a quarterback sneak on 4th and goal. And apparently he scored the touchdown because he was across the line. But it was his helmet that was across the line, not the ball. Anyway, the headlinesman Ernie France called it a touchdown. The Jets won, and it cost Seattle a playoff berth and Dennis Erickson his job as head coach of the Seahawks. Phil Luckett, who was the referee, was actually given a lot of flack because he didn't overrule the call. That wasn't the worst thing Luckett did in 1998. Anyway, the Jets would win the AFC East for the first time since the AFL-NFL merger. It was like, wow, they finally got it. They earned a first-round bye and a home playoff game. They won that, but they lost to the Broncos, who went on to win the Super Bowl for Elway for the second time. The Jets figured everything was hunky-dory. They were going balls out. They were going to get to the playoffs. Unfortunately, though, Testaverde ruptured his Achilles tendon, out for the rest of the year, and the Jets were floundering. However, Testaverde would be back in Jets colors and helped them win that famous Monday Night Miracle game that I talked about in October. The greatest game in Monday Night Football history, because the Jets were down 23 points in the fourth quarter and they won it 40-37. As Testaverde threw 5 touchdown passes to 1 to LaFarius Coles, 1 to Dwayne Wiggins, 1 to Jumbo Elliott, yeah, him, and 2 to Wayne Corbett. The 2001 season saw the Jets make the playoffs but lose to the Raiders. In 2002, he was replaced by Chad Pennington. It was basically a backup to Pennington, but in 2003, Pennington had a left wrist injury that cost him the first 6 games, so Testaverde came in. Testaverde was not too happy with it. However, Testaverde would get another chance with a new team. Dallas wanted to sign him, and Bill Parcells signed him to the Cowboys. He was supposed to be the backup to Quincy Carter. But because Carter got cut for failing a drug test, smart move, Dallas. No, really. Smart move. Testaverde was given the starting quarterback job. He did pretty well for yardage. Unfortunately, though, he led the league in interceptions, and Dallas ended up 6-10. Dallas decided to sign Drew Bledsoe as their top quarterback, leaving Testaverde without a contract. So that was huge and all that. Well, Testaverde had no job. However, the Jets re-signed Testaverde September of 2005 because Chad Pennington and Jay Fiedler both were out for the 2005 season. That was huge. Excuse me. And he was quarterback. In fact, on the final Monday Night Football game ever on ABC, as Monday Night Football moved to ESPN, the Patriots and the Jets, he set a new NFL record for consecutive seasons with 1 touchdown pass. 19 straight seasons in the NFL throwing a touchdown pass. He threw it to LaFarius Coles. And it was actually the last touchdown pass on ABC's version of Monday Night Football. And it was notable because the Patriots used their backup, Doug Flutie, making it the first game in NFL history, much less Monday Night Football history, which 2 quarterbacks over the age of 40 completed a pass. Testaverde was 42, Fleet was 43. Context, I'm 37. So, anyway. Surprisingly, the Pats decided to sign Testaverde as a backup to Tom Brady. He actually threw a touchdown pass against the Titans, Detroit Brown, giving him a touchdown pass for the 20th consecutive season, extending his NFL record. The Pats would win the first round game against the Jets, ironically enough. Testaverde would wear number 14 with the Patriots and all that. He signed a one-year contract in 2007 to play for the Pats, but then was released. And Carolina needed a new quarterback because Jake Delhomme got out because of his elbow injury. And no David Carr. Carolina were in a pinch. So they signed Vinny Testaverde to a contract. Testaverde won his old number 16 and played against the Cardinals and threw a touchdown pass to C. Smith, making it 21 straight seasons with a touchdown pass. Anyway, it was just shocking. Unfortunately, though, Testaverde would have an Achilles tendon injury and be replaced by David Carr. However, November 18th, he actually played at Lambeau Field for Packers against Brett Favre. So Panthers-Packers, it was Testaverde versus Favre. With Testaverde at 44 years old and Favre at 38 years old. It was the oldest starting quarterback duel in NFL history. 82 years combined, and the Packers won that game. Testaverde would become the second oldest starting quarterback in December 2007 against the Niners. And he retired after taking the final snap of the Carolina's 2007 season. He would be there. But the funny thing is, Testaverde has thrown for more touchdowns and passing yards. He has the most touchdowns and passing yards by a quarterback not in the Hall of Fame. The only problem was that Testaverde's winning percentage and tendency to throw interceptions have screwed him over for making the Hall of Fame. Still, he got to 2 Pro Bowls. He was 2-time passing touchdowns leader in 96 and 98 in the AFC. He had a few Tampa records, but anyway, yeah, his winning percentage 90, 200, 123, and 1. So yeah, he wasn't that good. So he threw for 275 touchdowns, 267 interceptions. Well, at least he threw more touchdowns than interceptions. He still holds the NFL record for most losses by a starting quarterback, 123. Throwing a touchdown to 70 receivers who caught touchdown passes. That was second most. And most players completing a pass, 138. Unfortunately, he still holds Bucks record for most times sacked and most interceptions thrown in a season/career. Anyway, Testaverde is the quarterback's coach at a high school in Tampa where his son Vincent Jr. attends. So he and his wife have 2 daughters and a son living in Tampa. Vincent Jr. actually played for Albany at quarterback and then actually signed with Tampa as an undrafted free agent. Played for Tampa in the XFL, but nothing else has happened. But yeah, Vinny Testaverde should be in the Hall of Fame. Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame. He threw a lot of interceptions and he didn't have good winning percentage, so why can't Testaverde? Kind of stupid, don't you think? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.